Hello and welcome aboard. Good to see you. Welcome back for those of you who are joining me as we have in the past. And it's a real pleasure to be with you today. We're about ready to go into the session, just another moment, and we are on. And the volume is good. You can hear? Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, it's time. Let's get started. The session that we're playing with today is called the Self-Love Paraliminal, and I can cover everything about it in just 4 or 5 days because there's so much cool stuff that's involved in the design of this particular paraliminal. Let me just say first that there is some beautiful scientific research that's come out about the effect on a person's motivation, well-being, health, and general overall sense of accomplishment when we treat ourselves with compassion. Self-compassion is noted as one of the most significant motivators of human behavior. Now, if you have had the experience in your life of being raised by a critical parent or a teacher or set of teachers who are very critical, generally motivation was done by punishment, it was done by condemnation, it was done by shaming. And if shame-based learning was a part of your family system or a part of your educational system, religious system, or your internal landscape, then this is a transformational experience. If you could think about our internal landscape as either being expansive and focused on possibility, then as opposed to being limited and withheld and withdrawn and a sense of contraction and a sense of moving away from pain and the things that are all wrong in your life, this is a tremendous shift in our internal experience. And self-love accomplishes this, the very interesting protocol that's built into this paraliminal session. First of all, I'd like to describe what I call the drop-in process, because many of the more recent paraliminals have been emphasizing this as a way of going into the interior place where your change work is going to occur. It's track 2 of the paraliminal. It's what I call the induction. We're going into a state which is internally more expansive. And in that process, there's 3 things that we do. The first is we drop our shoulders, relax our shoulders. Now, what that does is it sends a signal to your body and your brain that you're safe. Right now, you're safe. See, when we're not safe, when we're fearful, our shoulders have a tendency to come up around our ears. As one person said, these are the earrings I'm wearing lately. So the idea of dropping your shoulders says, there is no imminent threat right now. It's okay for me to stand down, to let down my guard, so we don't have to be vigilant and worried about the perimeter all the time. You're safe. You're okay. The second thing we do is we relax the forehead, eyes, cheeks, jaw, and get a little hint of a smile on the corners of the mouth and the corners of the eyes. Now, what this does, the research that's been done on the effect of smiling is quite profound. What it does is it sends a set of neurochemicals all through your body to help you feel a sense of calm. Now, the original biofeedback studies, the very first studies that were being done at the Menninger Foundation. Elmer and Alice Green wrote a book about their work, and in it they describe electromyograph, which is a device to measure tension. And what they found is that tension in the forehead is related to stress and tension throughout all the rest of the body. You relax the forehead, everything else relaxes. So that's the second thing of the drop-in. So we relax the shoulders, relax the face, and get a hint of a smile, which creates that neurochemistry of calm. The third thing that we do is we pay attention to the touch of the breath in the nostrils, and that's in that space from where the nostrils attach to the upper lip to that place where the nostrils pass through the center of the forehead. That space, if you just become aware, and try it right now, if you just become aware of the touch of the breath in the nostrils, it's impossible for your mind to be somewhere else. You immediately bring the mind into the here and now. What's important about that is that all of your resources as a mature human being are in the here and now. They're not someday when, and they're not in the past when you used to. No, it's here and now. So when you come into this present moment and have these three things going on, what you've done is you've relaxed and you've opened and you've upregulated the brain. Now, when we're under stress, the brain downregulates. What happens is that the reptilian complex is activated. The limbic system is activated. Fear, fight, flight, freeze, those are all activated. The brain goes into chaos. And so when we come into this calm, what happens is we have the ability to get to those higher brain functions that allow us to see the big picture and have the spiritual experience of connection. We actually trigger a set of neurological pathways that are referred to as quite different than everything else. It's called the synchronous neural wiring. And the place where the God spot is in that prefrontal cortex starts to light up. Simple process, takes about 30 to 90 seconds, but by going through it, you immediately go into a much more expansive state. Now from there is an interesting protocol that occurs during the change work of the paraliminal. It starts actually as I'm doing the countdown from 5 to 1. Let me explain it this way. There's two aspects to it. First of all is the idea that you've heard of the psychological construct called an inner child. So we have a set of representations within us that we would call our inner child, who we were in the time and space of our younger years. And many significant and traumatic teaching experiences, learning experiences happen in those early years, the formative years, before age 7, 8, 9. And oftentimes when we're emotionally or psychologically or even physically abused by the world that's supposed to be supporting us and helping us come to maturity and well-being, then what happens is that leaves a mark, essentially. It leaves a mark on our psyche. And it's often a reference point when we look to the future and think, hey, I would like to be able to do that. And the inner child says, don't do that, bad things could happen. And so we have an immune system to change. The immunity to change is something I've talked about before. It's an important concept. There are guardians of change that stop us at the threshold of the possible. And they say, don't go, bad things could happen, don't you remember? And so we have these guardians that are actually monitoring our future by protecting that inner child from ever getting wounded again. So many psychologists, in helping people to recover more of the full resourcefulness of who they are, basically reach into that black bag where we stuffed many of our most precious resources. Love and creativity and joy and contentment and all those things, right? And psychologists help us recover those qualities that may have been shut down because of a traumatic experience in our childhood. So we've got the idea of an inner child. Most of us have heard about it. Well, what about an inner elder? You see, I began working with a Dr. Asen, who created eidetic psychotherapy. And he talked about what he called the eidos, the idola. The idola is a futuristic being. Well, that futuristic being is that you in the fullest expression of your life at the end of your life, where who you are gets to look back and say, yeah, did good, kid. It's okay. Did your very best. A lot to be proud of, right? It's that inner elder who, at the end of your life, has lived this fulfilling experience and knows that things turned out okay. Well, what if we could consult that inner elder? What would the inner elder have to say to us that we are unable to say to ourselves? Think about it this way. If you have grandchildren, for example, or if you see a child who's being verbally abused by some adult, you could go to that child and say, sweetheart, I'm sorry that you've had to go through this, but things are going to turn out okay. You're going to discover that you have powers and abilities that can help you achieve what it is you dream for. Now, if you had had that benevolent grandparent type energy at those most difficult times for you when you were a child, how would your now experience be different? Well, your now experience can be influenced by that inner elder coming to help reassure you in the same way. So isn't this a cool dynamic? It's a very powerful idea. And so what the self-love paraliminal does is it brings the younger you and the elder you together with you. You see, today you can look back on those younger years and realize that even the most difficult situations have helped define your strength and resourcefulness. You survived. You made it. You got here. Woohoo! Congratulations. That's powerful. So if you could take all of that resilience, all of that persistence, all of that determination, all of those powerful habits that you've developed through your life to be who you are today, and bring that younger you here to talk with you, acknowledge, accept, allow that younger you to be the learner that he or she always needed to be, and thank that you. At the same time, what would your inner elder want to say to that younger you and to the now you? Well, can you imagine what a fabulous confluence of energies this would be? And this is based on something called timeline therapy, where this now experience is actually on a timeline that stretches behind you to the left, that's your past, and in front of you and off to the right, which is your future. So your elder comes from that place, and your younger you, whatever age you choose during this listening session, comes from that place, and the three of you get together. And at the end of it, you integrate all of them into this whole human being that you are. And the expression of self-love, forgiveness, kindness, and compassion is just amplified so powerfully as a result of this experience. It really has become my very favorite paraliminal. Now, you hear me say that every time I talk about a paraliminal, but if people say, well, what's the one you listen to most, Paul? Self-love is really my current favorite. So this protocol is also built on the concept of the three verities, which is truth, goodness, and beauty. And what if it was possible on an ongoing basis to see, to perceive, and to feel truth, goodness, and beauty all around us? Wouldn't that be something? If you think about how Hollywood makes movies, generally it's not there. It's violence and it's lying and it's big problem areas and it's revenge and it's horror and it's all kinds of crazy stuff. But every once in a while there'll be an inspirational film when you watch it, just breaks your heart open, right? Well, what is that open heart? That experience is actually what happens in the metaphor, the left ear channel that you listen to. There's a stairway down to a cave that's overlooking a valley. And in that cave, it's heart-shaped. You sit and you meditate and you allow these expressions of gratitude, love, kindness, forgiveness to flow in and out. It's interesting because in the science called heart math, that's the primary meditation that they teach. And when I was learning Himalayan yoga meditation, that was a primary technique that was taught. And many traditions also talk about that cave of the heart where we can sit, and as we breathe in and out, and the Taoists have this meditation, we breathe in and out as if it's through our heart, and it develops what's called heart coherence. And when you're living more coherently on a daily basis, your behaviors will be more congruent. And when we're coherent and congruent, we're in a co-respondence with the divine. We're in a co-responding, co-creating of our lives. And so, powerful, paraliminal, what I think is the result of it is this sense of an interior landscape that's expansive, that's compassionate, that's supportive, and it's filled with peace and appreciation. Now, if you think about living each day with a greater sense of peace and appreciation for everything you do, for everything that occurs, wouldn't you think that your life would be much lighter, much freer, much more expressive and expansive, and much more filled with possibility? It is. And so think of, the summary for me is to think of this interior landscape as being one of expansive and filled with peace and compassion. Wow. If you could walk through this day that way, woohoo, you'd really be living a spectacular day. And that's my wish for you, is have a spectacular day. Thanks very much for joining me. Hope to see you on our next session.